2019. So, and then by the time we got to the end of last year, people gave up and said, well, there won't be a recession after all. Now, of course, there's going to be people that are predicting that there's going to be a recession. There are plenty of people, and I'll just point this out, that are predicting or have predicted that the market would have a major slump, that we go into a bear market. But I'll give you the perspective of an investment specialist, which is what I am, a financial planner. I read the financial periodicals all the time, every single day. I'm in there peering through them, trying to find information that's going to benefit not only the portfolio construction and sometimes deconstruction of our portfolios and situations like we're going through right now, but as I read through that, I get a really broad perspective. And there's one website I'm on every single day, and on Monday it's going to tell you the market's going to fall. It's been saying this since about 2010. The market's going to go into a great recession, and it's going to have another bear market, yada, yada, yada. The next day, headlines on that same page is going to say, hey, we're going to head to 30,000 by the end of the year. And the next day it's going to say, no, it's going to sink to 14,000. The next day, no, we're going to go to 32. And it's back and forth and back and forth. I read them all because I think it gives me a great perspective of what's actually going to happen. And some of these folks who've been saying this since 2010 are definitely going to step forward at this point and say, I told you so. I'll be like, yeah, you told me this in 2019 or 2010 or 2015 or whenever it was, and none of them really got it right. Anyone that predicted it the day before, that's the person I would listen to. None of them did that. No one totally knew that this was going to happen and when it's going to happen, but the market cycle is that it goes up and it goes down. This, unfortunately, is a normal cycle of the market, and we don't like it. I absolutely hate it because this is what I do for a living, JP.
Because people are calling you saying, Tom, what do I do? What do I do? What do you tell them, Tom?
Well, a lot of things, actually, what I tell them is I say, don't look at your account every day. Most people, including our clients, tend to only open their accounts when the market does what it's currently doing. So if you want depression, anxiety attacks, extreme bouts of worry and stress, ignore this advice totally, because you can happily accomplish all those goals if you go into your account only when the market's falling. And those people that do that are the ones that end up with lots of anxiety and lots of depression. So that's not the time to be looking at it. In fact, I say to a client, you ignore it because I'm looking at it every day and I'm adjusting it accordingly. Also, then look at what's happened in the long haul. Had a client that we also in our household do taxes, and so my wife was meeting with a client of ours that as I walked in from my work, gave me the evil eye because they just found out that they were going to owe like $65,000 in taxes.
Isn't that a blessing, though?
Yes, because in 1 year's time, on their portfolio of about $1 million, they made $300,000.
I think I'd be okay with paying $60,000 for $300,000 in return.
However, if you look at their portfolio right now, they don't have the same amount in there, so they definitely lost. But if you look at it long term, they have definitely done incredibly well. So I say to clients, don't just look at the downturn, look at it long term. What has your account done for you? And be aware that on day-to-day basis, a lot of stories in the press, how do you get readers to read? You have dramatic headlines and woe is me and yada, yada, yada. In fact, one of the periodicals that I actually read, financial periodicals, was saying the other day, you never see a press release about the market's doing okay. It's only if the market is absolutely plunging.
Why is that? They always want to, tout the negative news instead of the good stuff.
Well, what they're doing is they're making sure that whatever they're selling sells. That newspaper, or if it's a TV show,
Gotcha.
whatever, they want to make sure that they get great readership and they sell it, and they sell it on the headlines and the dramatic stories that they come up with. So be aware of that. That's normal, but don't let it freak you out. And also, don't listen to just the naysayers. I used to work at the shipyard, JP, when I was in college, and I remember at the shipyard getting tons of market advice from these guys who were welders and pipe fitters and yada, yada, yada. They could tell me what was going to skyrocket or what was going to fall. And I say to my clients, don't listen to them. to our clients, and I teach financial interns a lot, and I teach them this as well. The market is never driven, JP, by charts or graphs or nifty statistics. The market is driven by emotions. Right now, there is great fear in the market, and you see what the market's doing. When that fear, that emotion comes out of the market, gets drained out, guess what the market will do? It'll turn north again. It'll start jumping again when we get rid of some of the fear about the coronavirus, and that's going to take some time, but it definitely is driven by emotions. I monitor, and I tell my clients, hey, I'm looking for the emotions of the market. When I get what I call the heebie-jeebies, then I start moving our portfolios around. In that regard, with your advisor or your financial planner, make sure that he is not or she's not the type of person that's doing nothing. If they're doing nothing during these times, this is when they earn their pay. Make sure they're doing something. If they're doing nothing, you might want to look for something different. In reference to that, there was a time, JP, where I helped audit financial advisors, and so I'd go through and they'd have their annual audit, and I'd have to look at their books and what they're doing, and I was amazed how many financial advisors, quite frankly, are lazy. They just sit back and say, well, the market's going to come back eventually, and I just tell my clients just to hold on. I'm like, yeah, because it's too much work to have to move them around to keep them safe. JP, we moved thousands of accounts yesterday. We have been moving thousands of accounts for 3 weeks now.
So there is a way to protect people's assets, and you do it.
Absolutely. So right now we're going into short-term bonds. We're going into cash. We moved yesterday more into a cash position. You look for what's going up where investors are fleeing to during downturns in the market. In 2008, we moved all of our accounts out of the market, so to speak, and into U.S. government securities. That year, U.S. government securities were the only green line on a very red spreadsheet that I had for all the different market areas. That particular area, though, made 7% while the market was falling by 30 to 50%. So if you've got a guy or a gal that knows what they're doing, they're looking for opportunities. If there's none, they should move you to cash temporarily. That's what we did in 2018 during December. And right now we're saying to clients, we got, for people that get freaked out about the market, JP, we got different financial products. I've got a CD annuity that we're moving people in. It's guaranteed to pay them 4.52% per year.
Wait a minute, that's better than what you can get on a CD at a bank.
I know. And plus it's wrapped in an annuity, and I'm a tax guy as well, so the annuity part of it allows you not to pay taxes on the gains until you take it out. And if you roll it, you don't pay taxes for long periods of time. But I'm just going to clarify that the 4.52% is good for 1 year. This is a 10-year annuity. Then it drops to 3.52 years 2 through 10. And JP, that's guaranteed, not attached to the market. You can't lose money unless you mishandle that particular product.
Even that 3-point is better than what a financial institution would give you.
Absolutely. We've got 3 and 5 and 7 year CDs, but that was the one that right now is really hot in our office as far as clients being interested in it. We also have another annuity product called a variable annuity where you can be in the market and you can make whatever the gains are in the market, but you can attach a rider called an investment preservation or protection rider that says in the event the market falls and you keep it from year 1 through 10, if you gave me $200,000 at the beginning of year 1, at the end of year 10, if you're now only worth 150, it'll write itself to 200. It's absolutely guaranteed not to lose you money.
So what I think I'm hearing, Tom, is this, that the financial markets, though people get so distraught about them, it's really like Michelangelo painting the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. If you looked at it in the first swath of blue, you're like, oh my gosh, he just ruined that perfectly white ceiling. But you've got to step back and you've got to wait for things to come together as they were intended to come together, and then it will be absolutely beautiful. But stressing out over the little things that you think are marks that aren't necessarily good or pretty in your eye doesn't necessarily mean it's absolutely destructive, and that's where you can help people, right?
Absolutely. And plus the fact we've got clients calling in, moving money into a cash or a very conservative position with the instruction, Tom, when the market turns, throw me back in the market. So they're taking advantage of it because they know to buy low and
Well, and that was the next question I was going to ask you. So if I could figure out a way to come up with $50,000 and say, hey, Tom, I want to get into the market now. I mean, it's lost, what, 20-something% right now? I want to get in. I want to buy some of the good stuff.
Right now, JP, 30%.
Ouch.
Yeah, it's a great buying opportunity. I'm just not throwing them in yet. I'm putting them on the sidelines. In other words, you can give me the 50,000. I put it into a short-term bond fund probably, let it sit there. In the moment the market begins to turn and head upward, I'd step into the market at that point.
And how do you know when that's going to happen? You don't know.
Well,
You're the expert.
Right. So I've got all the spreadsheets and I'm watching everything, and plus I'm sensing the very emotions of the market, and I'm waiting for that opportunity. We timed it fairly well, and no one can time the market well. I say the Lord is the only person that knows what's going to happen. So keep praying, because He can give you some advice and counsel there. That's what I say to my clients. But in any regard, I can look at it professionally and say, okay, it looks like we're at a bottom. And at that point, when I think we may be close to the bottom, I start reaching out to some of those clients and say, hey, we may be close to the bottom. Do you want to start putting some in? Even if I'm not totally sure. And then when I am fairly sure, then I move the rest of my clients in. So those people are like, the moment you think we might be, tell them, move me in, I'm moving in. And those people that are like, no, don't move me till you're pretty sure. I'll move them as well.
Excellent. So, and I will tell you this, Tom is a man of faith. If you're not so sure about your financial situation, maybe you don't have one, and you're looking for someone who can help you out. Tom, how do people get in touch with you at Sterling Financial?
Well, they can call Sterling Financial at 757-628-1888. That's our telephone number. And we're also on the web at sterlingfinancial.net, so they could look us up on the internet as well. But the easiest thing would be to call in at 757-628-1888. And my wonderful, very professional executive assistant, Adina Yule, will be happy to get you scheduled in for a consultation or meeting. We also do go-to-meeting, because obviously with the coronavirus, I've had some people that are anxious about getting out into the public. So we alerted all of our clients that we can do a go-to-meeting, which is a video chat and telephone conferences as well. So all those are available to our clients, or prospective clients for that matter.
Excellent. Tom, thank you so much for being with us, and I'm going to put all this on our Facebook broadcast as well. You can also hear it at Freedom 1110's website, WKQAradio.com. God bless you. And by the way, from a spiritual perspective, I can say, I think it was last week, Tom sent me a message, JP, please pray for wisdom in this situation. I need wisdom in this. So I applaud you, Tom.
Hey, amen. Thank you so much for your prayers as well, JP.
You got it.
Thanks for the honor of being able to be on your show. I really do appreciate it.
The honor's mine. Thank you so much. All right, we're going to take a little bit of a break here. Got to let you know here, coming up on April the 1st, we're going to be making the broadcast a Monday through Friday, 5-day-a-week program. And if you like what's going on, from a local perspective, Freedom 1110 wants to keep you abreast of what's going on. I want to talk to you about how, at a very, very, very affordable cost, you could be a sponsor, much like those on other big talk radio shows that cost a fortune to underwrite. So feel free to give us a call, 757-222-3705. Again, 757-222-3705. And the fight for freedom continues in just a minute.
If you're looking for a reliable pre-owned car that looks good, runs, and is mechanically sound, it's time to visit Little Joe's Auto Sales. Little Joe's is a family business that treats its customers like family. Buying a car at Little Joe's is a pleasure, not a hassle. Little Joe's is a one-stop auto dealership. Buy there, pay there, and they do repairs as well. Little Joe's Auto Sales is the only Mitsubishi dealership in Chesapeake. Call Little Joe's Auto Sales today at 757-420-8214. That's 757-420-8214. Better yet, come visit Little Joe's at 1601 South Military Highway. Little Joe's Auto Sales. Little Joe would give them away, but his wife won't let him.
Coronavirus updates. We're your source for facts, not rumors. Coronavirus updates. Clear, concise, and reliable. You can depend on us.
It is The Fight for Freedom on Freedom 1110. WKQAradio.com is our website. Talking today about the financial situations, the implications as a result of this pandemic. And President Trump, just over an hour and a half, is going to be announcing that we're actually in a state of emergency in the United States of America. So one of the things that I just read before even coming on the program today is a very good thing. President is going to be signing an executive order ending medical supply reliance on China due to the fact that a lot of these things that we depend on go through some sort of chain. They say many of the active ingredients and medications that we use here in America as pretty common practice are eventually shipped to places like India. They're made into medications and then sent to the United States. Now, this certainly does keep the cost down in some regard, but it can certainly make necessary drugs and things like masks and gloves, it can make those things a little bit scarce. So the president is planning on improving the availability of face masks as well as respirators. So this act that he's going to be signing, this executive order ending medical reliance supply on China, I think is an absolute fantastic thing. The other thing is Nancy Pelosi and the people in the House wanted to send a bill to the Senate, and did they do that? Yes, they did. But what they did was, and this is where, ladies and gentlemen, I find it interesting, because when you have these politicians playing a political game rather than doing what's best for the country, you know, it's time that we actually do what Nancy says we should do. You know, let's do it, Nancy. What do you say?
Kind of shocking to see the challenges that we have and the decisions that have to be made about people coming together, whether it's sports or the arts or just political gatherings or whatever it is. We have to think in a different way about that, whether it's about personal hygiene or personal contact with other people. We have to be smart about how we do that, washing our hands for 20 seconds with soap and water.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very simple thing. Wash your hands. Stop being dirty. Stop being lazy. Actually wash your hands. Not just run them after going to the latrine under water for 3 seconds thinking the little dribbles are gone now. No, let's get deep. And then as far as the political bickering, what are your thoughts on that, Nancy? Please?
We agree to much of what they have to Look, first of all, Mitch McConnell called me and said, you work with the secretary. That's it. Now the House Republicans are saying they're not in the loop. No, we sent them the language. It's not about that. I mean, it's about putting people and families first. So, I mean, if everybody could have a complaint about this or that, I said, save it for another day.
Yes, save it for another day. All the political bull, save it, please, for another day. So what she did, it was pretty slick. And so I think that people who are awakening to the way that the government is actually running, you're astute people, and you figured some things out. And one of those things you figured out is this. Yes, what she sent to the president for his signature, also to the House for their approval, got rejected. You know why? Because, ladies and gentlemen, she has a take just like one of the former presidential candidates, Pete Buttigieg. She tried to slide some sleazy money in there. She wanted some of this emergency coronavirus money bill to slide some abortion underwriting into it. And it was caught. It is time, my fellow American patriots, for us to bring this crap to an end, stand up, and just simply say no. Right?
What to do is come together and get the job done.
Yes, come together and get the job done. Stop talking about your personal pet projects, and how about let's get together and get the job done? So all these things are going on in the background while the coronavirus seems to take center stage. So just before the program began today, you heard Jay Sekulow in the American Center for Law and Justice program talking about the coronavirus. Did you know that Rashida Tlaib, she's obviously anti-Israel, has been. She's made statement after statement after statement saying that, you know, Israel doesn't deserve to be in existence, doesn't believe that Israel should even exist. She just posted a picture of herself in a t-shirt that literally erased Israel from the map. She's directly advocating the extinction of the Jewish state of Israel. And this is someone who is deep inside the U.S. government. This, my fellow loving American citizen, is absolutely sick. It is these types of people we've got to get out. They're not fighting for us. They're fighting for their little pet projects around the world. During administrations in the past, millions, if not billions of dollars have been sent to save other countries, well, quote unquote, save other countries, and then the money never makes to where it's supposed to go. Remember several weeks ago what was discovered in Puerto Rico is all the supplies after the terrible hurricane there, this is about 2 years ago. It was put in a warehouse, never given out to the people, and it's still sitting there, and probably most of it's no good anymore. So somebody at the top is taking this money that's earmarked, and if you follow the web, I think you'll see very, very carefully and very clearly, it's a nasty, nasty world. So the International Criminal Court prosecutor wants to prosecute the Israelis for alleged war crimes. The ACLJ is going to be fighting a critical law brief at the International Criminal Court in defense of Israel, our ally, the United States' ally. By the way, with regard to the coronavirus, the Israelis are very, very, very smart people. Very smart. And you say, what do I mean by that? But if you've ever taken a trip to Israel, you know what I'm talking about. Most people probably haven't. But if you're ever given an opportunity to take a trip to Israel, please go. You're going to learn that these people who have the ability, the insight, and this is really God-given as far as I'm concerned, but this insight into how to make desert and rocks productive, produce food, produce safety, have water come out of a rock. That started back in Moses, back in Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. You see those stories time and time again. God said, strike the rock. Actually, speak to it. Moses got a little irritated, hit it, and water came flowing out of it. So there's something special about Israel. A lot of things coming up. But from a coronavirus perspective, Israel said last week that they most likely will have something that will combat the coronavirus. The last week they said 2 to 3 weeks, so today must be probably another week or two, is what we're hoping. So let's certainly pray for and support Israel, because it seems like so many people, including those, some of those, and I don't know how they got elected, but some of those elected officials in Washington, D.C., they're trying to destroy Israel as well, simply because they're not Israeli, they're Palestinians, they're Muslims, and they don't like the fact that, Israel exists, and Israel's more successful, not because of oil. If oil's the only thing you've got in your belt buckle to make money, I guess you would want to figure something else out, right? Let's go steal the land from the people that have it and to steal their good ideas and such. Protect Israel, pray for the peace of Israel. Let's do that, please. So in this coronavirus stuff, there's so much stuff going on.
We're your source for facts, not rumors. Coronavirus updates, clear, concise, and reliable. You can depend on us.
All right, so here's the deal. With regard to coronavirus, there are apparently in this bill that the House is trying to send to the Senate and then to the President for signature, there are a lot of things in there that include paid leave for employees' needs. They want the Trump administration set to cut about $700,000 off of the free food programs in the country. So, just under 1 million people, close to 750,000 people who have the ability to work, but they're getting free food and probably a lot of other benefits as well. The president says enough is enough. It's time to get your keister up, go to work, get a job. There are plenty of jobs. And now, I don't know, now we're in a paradox because you can't go get a job because everything's closed down. Flights. A lot of places have cut their flights. Delta, U.S. Air, all these people these airlines are cutting their flights. And then, of course, you can't, as of midnight tonight, you cannot fly from Europe to the United States. You're not going to get in unless you're a U.S. citizen. You've got your passport. You better have that handy and make sure that nobody else gets it, because if somebody else gets it, I think you're kind of in trouble. You're stranded. So if you're from the UK and you want to travel back and forth, I guess that's okay as well. But from the bill that the House Democrats want to send to the Republican Senate, they want all these benefits, like leave. Now, I have to say, Mitch McConnell, we're going to give it up for Mitch McConnell. Here's the reason why, because Mitch says, I don't care if everybody else leaves Washington, D.C. We've got work to do. We're going to stay here until the job is done. D-O-N-E, done, complete. And so I give kudos to Mitch McConnell and all of those in the Senate, whether they're Republican or Democrat, who are actually willing to stop, stay, and do the job that needs to be done. So thank you very, very much. So St. Paddy's Day is coming up, and I don't know if this was planned or whether this is coincidental, but Pelosi, Speaker of the House, always throws this big St. Paddy's Day party. The president has said not going to go. Wouldn't be prudent. I think that's a good thing that he's not going to go, especially considering the fact that he was in touch with a couple of Brazilian government officials, I think it was last week, and those, as of this morning, have been confirmed to have the coronavirus. Now, so what exactly is the coronavirus? We were going to talk with a gentleman about how, as we talked with Tom Spate of Sterling Financial, we're going to talk with him about jobs and how they're impacting the U.S., how the economy is impacting U.S. jobs and job seekers. But apparently, we are not going to be able to make that connection today, so my apologies for that. But the 10 highest paying jobs that you can get without a college degree, that's kind of my backup story, and we'll get to that in just a minute. But talking about the coronavirus, what exactly is the coronavirus? So people want to know. I mean, there's so much stuff around. Coronavirus, it's a group of viruses that include the viruses that cause severe acute respiratory syndrome, or SARS, and Middle East respiratory syndrome. It's called MERS. All right, this new virus that we've got is considered COVID, or being called COVID-19, COVID-19. They say it's a novel strain. It was unknown to humans before the initial outbreak in Wuhan, and that was a wet market, they call it, because a lot of those things traded there from a food perspective are foods that are butchered and then brought there to hang, and whether or not they're sanitary is the question. Bats are the big thing in question, because bats carry so many things that they're immune to that Americans and people around the world can succumb to. And that's what they think this COVID-19 originated from. The illness, they say, begins with a high fever. And they say with a temperature of 100.4 or greater, get to your doctor or go to the emergency room. It also comes with a cough, shortness of breath, difficulty breathing. More severe cases progress to pneumonia, respiratory distress, and organ failure eventually, which makes it a very quick, you're gone kind of situation. So really pay attention. If you feel like you're a little bit tepid, then your temperature's rising, then certainly take your temperature and then act accordingly. The World Health Organization has reported that 109,000 confirmed cases exist worldwide. There have been 3,809 deaths, with a worldwide, according to these statistics, fatality rate of 3.5%. Now, because that outbreak began in China, excluding China, there are 38,674 cases and 686 deaths, resulting in a fatality rate of 2.4%, which is significantly different. So with that said, who's really impacted and affected by the coronavirus? It's older people particularly. They're susceptible because of a weaker immune system. People with maybe weakened immune systems, such as transplant recipients, cancer patients, chronic lung disease people, people with COPD, cystic fibrosis, just in overall weak immune system. If you've got any of those things, I think it's a good idea maybe to they say that the masks, unless it's a very specific and special mask, are the typical hospital masks that you get when you go into the ER are futile. They don't do anything. They don't help you. So don't bother. But they say that washing your hands is a most important thing, which is absolutely 100% true. So the jobs that are affected by this whole coronavirus thing, it's kind of crazy. The workforce will continue to evolve. Certainly, we've seen this trend of people becoming virtual workers. I've known for years people who work for big banks and they do security from their office at home or from their living room. And so this has been going on for a long, long time. Businesses figuring out new ways to sell things. You know, you see the decimation really of malls across America, maybe even around the world. I mean, mall spaces. MacArthur Center in downtown Norfolk, Virginia, Lynn Haven Mall in Virginia Beach, Virginia, Chesapeake Square Mall, Chesapeake, Virginia, and the list goes on and on and on and on. Buckhead Mall in Atlanta, Georgia, even malls outside of Washington, D.C., Boston, Dallas. You go to these places and there's a lot of board up storefronts. They used to say coming soon, but you don't see much of that anymore. And so you've got all these stores that have certainly become friends with Jeff Bezos. So Amazon is one of those big things, and so many people have packages delivered to their home, and that's a wonderful thing. But how is that going to affect workers? So one of the things that's being discussed, and I think needs to be discussed, is our education system. So our people need to understand that what does an 18-year-old, 17-year-old do when they're finishing their senior year in high school, and it's time to go and make a decision as to, do I go to college or do I do something else? What do I do? So that's the big question. Is a college education, is spending $80,000 to, let's say, $125,000, $130,000, $50,000, is it worth that indebtedness if I want to be one who, say, is a culinary expert, if you want to be a head chef of a restaurant, if you want to be someone who has, maybe you want to change tires on cars, is a college degree the always go-to answer? As far as I'm concerned, the answer is no. And I think that perhaps this shocking ailment worldwide is certainly helping people understand that, you know what, maybe, just maybe, there is a situation where higher education may not necessarily be the answer. It may not be the solution to all of the issues that we have. So, I always like to look back on different things from the past, because only people who do not learn from history repeat it. And a lot of times when you read history, history's not always necessarily pretty. It's really not pretty. How about we get back to some basics, huh? Let's do this.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen. How about we have some nationalism, some loyalty, some love for country? Because I think that love for country will certainly bring about love for one another as well. Don't you think? Hey, some good news in all of the stuff that's going on. Some good news is coming. We're going to talk about that next as the fight for freedom continues.
An adult elephant can weigh up to 6 tons. The average person, 150 pounds. Ever heard of carfentanil? It's a large wild animal tranquilizer. Illegal drug dealers lace heroin with it. It can kill the average human. If you or a loved one is addicted to opiates, even pain pills, don't wait until it's too late. Call the Detox and Treatment Helpline now. We care. Many of us have been where you are. We'll take you or a loved one away from the drug environment to a place you can clean out safely. Plus, we'll work with your insurance company to make sure you get the treatment you need. And with the Family Medical Leave Act, you're allowed by law to get away for help without telling your employer why. Call now to save a life. 800-208-5187. 800-208-5187. That's 800-208-5187.
Many choosing to brave the freezing temperatures, and they camped out.
Earlier than early for President Trump's rally.
Temperature is still freezing cold out here. Last time I checked, it was 9 degrees.
My 401k is going up. Everything is going up. Thank you, Donald. I love you. Colorado was founded by pioneers and prospectors, cowboys and miners who tamed the wilderness, explored the West, and helped make this the greatest nation ever to exist on the face of the earth. 75 years ago this week, our brave United States Marines landed on the shores of Iwo Jima. America is truly a land of heroes. Brave people, great people. This is a truly incredible time for America. We have the best economy in our history. We added another 225,000 brand new beautiful jobs last month. We are in the midst of the great American comeback. That's what we're doing. Our country is stronger today than ever before. While the extreme left has been wasting America's time, we've been killing terrorists, creating jobs, raising wages, enacting fair trade, securing our border, and lifting up citizens of every race, color, religion, and creed. At stake in our present battle is the survival of our nation. Now you have a president who is standing up for America. And we are standing up for the great people of Colorado. America is thriving like never before. And ladies and gentlemen, the best is yet to come. I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message. Live and uniquely local.
It's a community station. Now, here's your host, Jane.
And I believe, despite the fact that we do have maybe some physical ailments that could not be overcome necessarily in an instant, like a common cold or COVID-19, or whether it's cancer or whether it's kidney disease or whatever the case may be, my fellow Americans who love peace, you legal citizens who love peace, or you people who have come and you've got green cards because where you came from is not nearly what the United States of America is, and you wanted to be here so bad, welcome. You love the freedom. You love the ability to go from state to state and enjoy the things that God has blessed this nation with. Let me tell you, my friends, despite the hysteria across this country, please do not be overcome by the craziness that's going on. We have a sickness. About every 100 years, I was having this discussion with someone probably a month ago, and I said, it's really interesting that so many people have been pounding the president for 3.5 years because things have been so good. They've been digging for something, and now we have COVID-19, the coronavirus. Could it be? And I'm not going to say that I'm a conspiracy theorist. I'm not going to say that I'm not, but I like to look at realities. I like to look at evidence, empirical evidence. And so what does this mean? We have all these things. It's like President Trump said in what you just heard. Just like the weather, there are times when the thermostat goes up and there are times when it comes down. There are times where it's in between. It's like a daggone roller coaster. And isn't that true with life, my friend? Over 100 years ago, I want to say it's pulling this off the top of my head, Mrs. O'Leary. Everyone loved Mrs. O'Leary from Chicago until the day her Molly Moo Cow kicked over that lantern, set the whole city on fire, and burned it down. It's not a story I'm making up. It's actually something I learned as a child when history was actually taught. It may have been cold in different places, whether it was Germany, whether it was France, whether it was Poland, or anywhere in between. And so the people put on boxcars saying they were being taken to a camp where they would be cared for back in the early 1940s, what was said was not actually what was being done. But we made it through. And today we've got to learn the lesson about making it through, continuing. Despite the stuff that's thrown our way, we will survive. And I think the one way that we will survive is this. We have a choice. We have a choice to believe in good stuff or be absorbed by bad stuff. Personally, I choose to believe good stuff. For example, the IRS is bumping back the tax filing deadline. It's not going to be April 15th. You're going to have a little more time. I'm going to have a little more time to get our taxes taken care of and done. So that's a good thing, right? The president's called for low interest rate loans for small businesses and payroll tax cuts. He's asked Congress, please act quickly so that we can save small businesses. I have a small businesses, and if you know the structure of the American economy, it is the small business that makes up about 70 to 75% of the economy of the entire country of the United States of America. It is not the banks of America that we bail their tails out. It is not the General Motors and etc. that make beautiful automobiles. It's not them that makes our economy spin. It's people who build houses. It's people who cook food. It's people who clean houses. It's people, even locally, at hospitals that'll take care of you if you've got a runny nose and a scratchy throat and God knows what else. That's what builds the American economy. So let's have faith in that. Remember, a pandemic is different from a financial crisis. Bargain basement interest rates can help keep business afloat, but the social distancing measures recommended by health officials mean canceling events and avoiding crowded places. It's certainly going to curb spending. Interest rate cuts can't fix that. You can, the feds can cut rates again, but that doesn't necessarily fix it. And as Tom Spate spoke with Sterling Financial early in the program, after 11 years, the longest ever bull market in stocks appears to be nearing an end. He said we dropped about 30%. The market's value has dropped by about a third, putting it in a bear market instead of a bull market. And the S&P not far behind it. 29 of the 30 stocks of the Dow ended lower. All 11 sectors of the S&P were at least 10% off their 52-week highs during Wednesday's trading and yesterday's trading as well. Since 1915, the average amount of days it's taken for stocks to go from peak, that is bear territory, is 255 days. The Dow took 28 this time. And the good news is this, ladies and gentlemen, we live in the greatest country on the planet. And here's really, I know this is going to be like, this is just like, JP, where are you coming up with this stuff? But true. I think that Starbucks is closing a lot of its stores and only making drive-through pickups possible. But a competitor, Panera's, they are offering an unlimited coffee subscription for only $8.99 a month. So $9 a month, you can drink as much tea, hot coffee, iced coffee that you want to. That's the good news in this pandemic. So I think where there is a will, there is always a way to find the good in the bad. Don't you think this is a good thing? I think that we need to keep our eyes on the prize. We need to, there's a lot of things going on around the world, but right here at home, courtesy of Travelers, and I was talking to some people in different states in the country. I actually spoke with some people in Vermont. I spoke with some people down in Florida just hours ago, and apparently Travelers, people who have traveled to these countries known for spreading the virus that everybody is so freaked out about. By the way, the back of the Lysol can and some other brands like Lysol, the spray aerosol type, it says coronavirus is something they kill 99.99% of. If there's any on the shelf, I think you may want to go get some and spray your doorknobs a couple times a day. But looking at the good stuff, no, it is not that LA and New York are, their orgies are going forward despite the coronavirus. And I'm not making this stuff up. I am not making this stuff up. I'm not making up the stuff that not only did Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats try to put some garbage in that coronavirus bill that they wanted the Senate and the President to sign off on and pay. Not only did she put in there Christmas tree ornaments to be paid for from this money, she also paid for she wanted us to pay for abortion underwriting. My friends, let me say this. If one studies history, which you've heard me say needs to be done over and over and over again, they would find this. History repeats itself when humankind doesn't learn the lessons from the past. And so, let us, my fellow Americans, freedom-loving citizens who love life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, let us go back to understanding some basics. Although, yes, I'm not going to tell you a lie, I personally do like President Donald John Trump. I think that what he's done is good, and he has absolutely nothing to do with this coronavirus, which originated in China. Maybe this was China's brilliant concoction because of all of the trade wars, if you want to call them that the president has kind of sort of enacted against China. Maybe they've been working in this Hunan laboratory where the one who built this virus died from the virus. Maybe this is retaliation for that. Could it be? I don't know, but it could be. But let us not forget this. Really, although I love Donald Trump, and I'm hoping that you do as well, and I'm hoping that if you don't, that you're beginning to learn that the good things that he has done are good for all people, not just a few people. But the reality is this. The most important voting that is done anywhere in the United States of America is not, let me repeat, it is not voting for the President of the United States of America. It is not. It is voting for people that make the laws. People like Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer. It is people like Rashida Tlaib. It is people like Ted Cruz. It's people like Representative Gaetz. People, we need to understand that these local representatives, the people we send to Washington, D.C., not the one that occupies 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, but rather the ones who go and play on Capitol Hill in the House and the Senate, those are actually a heck of a lot more important to choose very wisely than the one who sits in that big White House on Pennsylvania Avenue. I beg of you, if you're not registered to vote, please cease and desist immediately saying one vote doesn't count, because it sure as heavens does. One vote does indeed make a difference. Please get registered. I wouldn't dare tell you to vote one way or another. I hate the party system in that the only party that should exist in the United States of America is a party for we the people. There should be a party, we the people. And the only people that go, who are elected and do for those people with term limits, would be those who do for we the people. Not for them and their rich friends. Not stealing money from we the people by slimy little bills that they suddenly pass through, that you and I, as the little peons paying the bill, we don't have a clue as to what all this stuff is in these 362 pages of muck that these people write. Of course, with their legal counsel guiding them. That just about does it for the program today. I think I'm done preaching. I hope we did have a couple of people that were going to come and be on the program, but apparently they didn't. So that happens, and so I pray that you've got something out of what has been presented today. And I hope and pray that you wash your hands singing happy birthday for at least 20 seconds or more. And I hope and pray that above all other things, that you understand that A, you are loved by someone who loves you more than your mama, someone who loves you more than your daddy, someone who loves you more than your spouse, your partner, your aunt, your uncle, your grandma. Know this. You are loved. I pray that you have a great weekend. And before anything else, that you come into a loving, true relationship with Yahweh, Jesus Christ. See you next week on The Fight for Freedom.
This is Freedom 1110, WKQA, Norfolk, serving Eastern Virginia and North Carolina with 50,000 watts of power, and worldwide at WKQA Radio.
Romans 12:2 says, "Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind." We must renew our minds to God's way of thinking in order to lay hold of the good life He has promised us.